Yeah, no problem. So right.
Joe, maybe I can ask you to take the questions that have come in via Slido first, since they are anonymous, so that we can make sure that people get the answers that they need. If that's possible.
No problem at all. So the first one from Slido is here. So will there be a specific presentation for transit to IE?
David, would you like to talk a little bit about transit? I know there were a couple of questions about transit.
Yep. So transit will broadly be similar as it is today, though now GB will now be a third, not a third country as such, but a separate contracting party rather than part of the EU. Therefore, Office of Transit functions will be required. Say if something was moving from the EU mainland to the Republic of Ireland, it would need to do Office of Transit as it, so I'm assuming this is referring to using the UK as a land bridge, and so Office of Transit would need to be completed for those movements. It's worth saying that I know that I've spotted a few transit questions. There is plenty of guidance on both gov.uk and other sources on how transit works. You know, it's a pre-existing system. It's pretty well used, but the key kind of change to it, you know, that the process behind it isn't able to change due to UK transition, because it's got multiple signatory parties. But that is the key change, is that the UK will be part of it, though a separate part than the EU. So Office of Transit would need to be completed going through the UK, and we are doing work around that with the kind of infrastructure that Margaret mentioned earlier, as well as looking at traders or businesses or organisations that want to become authorised consignors or consignees to start and end movements, to kind of help facilitate the potential increased interest in transit that is clearly there, as well as it has been asked a few times on this in that chat box.
Excellent, thank you. So another question here is, they're talking about certificates. Are the certificates based on the arrival of the vessel and the impact cargo already on the water? For example, seed potatoes from Canary Islands will have already had documentary checks completed prior to actual arrival and discharge.
Hi Joel, are you getting those questions from Slido? Because I can't see those ones. I don't know. Shall I run through some of the questions that I got from Slido and direct them to HMRC and to DEFRA?
Yeah, no problem. You go ahead.
Thank you. So we'll start with the HMRC questions. So the first one is, do we need to apply for a licence or permission in order to use the simplified procedures from the 1st of July 2021 as an importer? Do you want to take that one, David?
Yep. So to use the different procedures from July, yes, you will need to be authorised to use those. It is just a 6-month staging in of the controls, partly as a reaction to or as a response to COVID-19 and the pressures businesses have been put into elsewhere to kind of allow them time to get those authorisations, whether it be customs freight simplified procedures or to become authorised to use transit or any of those things. It just allows a little bit more time for those businesses to prepare.
Thank you. And there's a question on GVMS as well. So if you could answer that one. The question is GVMS now up and running and fully operational as of today? If not, when is it expected to be ready?
So it's not up and running as of today, but it is being developed at pace. I don't particularly know the date it will be ready by, but it is on track to be delivered and up and running by the end of the year, so it can facilitate those export declarations and any use of transit as that TAD can form part of the GMR. So the two answers to the two questions are no, it's not ready yet, and I don't know when it will be fully up and running, though I do know the absolute last day, which will be at the end of this year, and it is on track to meet that.
Thank you. And then I think there's one here that's just clarifying on CFSP. So the question is, I understand the first slide stated that for the first 6 months, January to July, import declarations are not required. However, is this facilitated only by CFSP? So I think the question is, do you need to be CFSP registered?
So it's kind of a yes and no answer to that one. So to make that entrance in your own declarant's records, in your own, however you choose to do that, you don't need to have CFSP. However, when it comes to making that supplementary declaration, either yourself will, as a trader, will need to have the CFSP, or using the services of an intermediary to make that supplementary declaration on your behalf. So they would have the necessary authorizations to submit that declaration. And that's, again, what Margaret talked about earlier about the £50 million available for intermediaries to increase their capacity. That's kind of what we're aiming for as well, is to increase that capacity. So for those traders that don't want to become authorized and make those supplementary declarations themselves, there is a suitably sized intermediaries market there to fulfill those obligations for you. So that again, with that, it is very much a commercial decision on the part of the trader or business, whether they choose to go down the route of becoming authorized or using the services of an intermediary.
Thank you. There were a couple of questions on Friday that I think I've answered via the chat bar. So one on CE marking, so all the information is on gov.uk for that one, and another one on customs rates. So I've pasted in the information on the UK global tariff. I'll move on now to some of the DEFRA related questions from Slido. So James, are you able to answer about, are heat treated pallets a requirement after the 1st of Jan 2021? Are you there?
I am there. I was just on mute. First time that's happened today. I think we've done very well. I think that's related to the question that we were asked about wool packaging material earlier. My answer to that was that it needs to be treated appropriately in compliance with the international standards. What I want to add to that is that there will be no immediate change because there's no immediate change to the biosecurity threat of wood packaging materials originating from the EU at the end of the transition period. The UK will maintain its current checking regime for EU wood packaging materials. I think for the detail on that question, I will take it away and come back with a fuller answer. I just wanted to add that as a further clarification.
Thank you. And then there were a couple of questions that are quite similar. So with veterinary or health certificates being a requirement from the 1st of April, can these be electronically submitted, or do you require original presentation? And a very similar question about whether the process for pre-notification and health certificates will be digital or if there will be manual steps. So are you able to speak to that a little bit, please?
I understand that the process will be digital end-to-end, but I will check that and come back to you. And on the other part of that question as well, I don't have the answer to hand, but I will provide a detailed answer.
Okay, thank you. I think that covers most of the questions that I saw that we got through via Slido. So hopefully that's answered most of those.
Yeah.
So for those of you who asked questions via Slido, since they are anonymous, if you want us to come back to you directly with a clearer answer, please copy paste them into the chat so that we have your contact details and can get back to you. Joe, what else do we have? What other questions do we have?
Yep. So we have a few here, starting from the earliest. The first question we were getting from lots of people was, are we able to send out the slides after the presentation? We are recording it, but yes, we can also send out the slides to you guys. So let's have a look. If we facilitate a sale of goods from DK to a UK buyer, do we need to do all paperwork, or is it our buyer who also arranges the collection as part of the deal?
David, I don't know if you want to cover that one, but it's probably something to look at under your terms and conditions about looking at who is responsible for what steps in the process. And we provided a link to the World Trade Organization's guidance on that.
Mm-hmm.
David, is there anything you'd like to add?
Nope, spot on. Yeah, it's something that as well we're looking to encourage traders and hauliers and everybody in supply chains to try and talk to each other to work out who's going to take these different responsibilities that are required. So for every import there is an export, for every export there is an import. Therefore there is an exporter and there is an importer. So it's important to get those agreements and those processes in place, because a lot of it comes down to sharing of the relevant information as well. And as Margaret alludes to, there is guidance out there, and it's the terms and conditions broadly known as INCO terms, and there is plenty of guidance available on those.